Ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday and an early happy Thanksgiving to you all. I know I have so much to be grateful for, and that includes you, my viewers. In today's video, we're going to go over the top 30 wide receiver options in Week 12. We're going to get you your must-start wide receiver 1s, those solid wide receiver 2s, and some flex options for you to think about so that we can make sure and set the most awesome lineups this weekend to crush our opponents and get into those playoffs. I'm also going to cover some notable omissions and why I did not include them in my rankings. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome, and please like and subscribe. I appreciate the support so much on my journey to my first 100 subscribers. I'm now halfway there. If you guys have any questions about start sits, please drop them down below. I'd love to be able to help you out with them. With that all said, done, and out of the way, let's get into Week 12's wide receiver rankings. The best start of the week at wide receiver is Cooper Kupp. He goes on the road to face the Pack in Lambeau. Now, the only thing that could stop the wide receiver 1 5-game streak for Cooper Kupp was a bye. However, I guess he can carry that on after it, and I think that he will here against a Packers team that just got absolutely destroyed by Kirk Cousins. On to 2, and it's Deebo Samuel. He gets my Vikings at home. Not many receivers can have one catch for just 15 yards and still have an excellent day, but Deebo is a rare breed. Utilized all over the formation, Samuel had 8 carries for 79 yards and a score, finishing as the wide receiver 16. Flat out impressive. Oh, and the Vikings just gave up nearly 400 passing yards last week as well, so more points are incoming. We move on to Davante Adams. He's my 3rd ranked player. He stays at home to face the Rams. And I knew this would happen. I'm just happy that it didn't cost my Vikings the win. Adams used 2 second-half touchdowns to propel him to the overall wide receiver 2 finish. However, Jalen Ramsey lies in wait. I am betting on Aaron Rodgers' arm and the offense here, though. Adams is just too talented. Traveling on the road to San Francisco, and in at number 4 is Justin Jet Jefferson. And hey, Kirk took notes. Feeding the stud, Jefferson has gone nuclear in back-to-back games with 312 yards and 2 touchdowns combined. In his 5 games with double-digit targets, Jet has 40 receptions for 575 yards and 4 tutties. Feed the dude and watch him go. This doesn't have to be hard. The last player to sneak into my top 5 is Jamar Chase. He gets to stay at home to face the Steelers. Now, I am not worried, but Chase has been very touchdown dependent over his last few weeks, with the Steelers allowing the 4th most yards per attempt over the last 3 games. I think the yardage comes here. Stephon Diggs is in at 6, and he goes on the road to face the Saints. Diggs never went anywhere, though some had their concerns. Speaking of concerns, I feel a Marshawn Lattimore shadow game coming, and that's the only reason that Diggs isn't in my top 5. In his last 5 games, he's been the lone consistent star on the Bills. I'll bet on the offense again and hope I don't regret it. We move on to number 7, and it's Mike Evans. He goes on the road to face the Colts. Now, I bet on Evans last week over Bradbury, and it ended up working out as Big Mike was able to box him out and score a touchdown on his way to a wide receiver 1 finish. In his last 4 games, he has 28 targets for 259 yards and 6 scores. His teammate, Chris Godwin, is next, and in prime time, he put owners at ease early, scoring the game's first touchdown en route to a top 15 finish. The Colts are bottom 10 in yards per attempt, passing touchdowns allowed, and points per game allowed to the position. He has an encore coming. Terry McLaurin stays at home. He is my 9th ranked player against the Seahawks. Now, McLaurin absolutely went scary Terry on him last week, dropping 100 yards and a touchdown in a tough matchup. Now he has to figure out how to string a few solid performances together back to back, a feat he has not accomplished all season long. I say that he does it here. The last player in my top 10 is DK Metcalf. He goes on the road to face Washington's football team. Since Russ's return, Metcalf has finished outside of the top 50 in back-to-back games. I'm not exactly sure what to make of it, but he does have 8 targets in each of those, so the opportunity has been there. I think that the targets pay off, and it starts in this game. Deontay Johnson travels to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, and he's next at 11. Over the past 3, only the Jets allow more yards per attempt than the Bengals, and Johnson has seen 13 targets in 4 out of his past 5 games. Now with that volume and Cincy's inefficiency, he is set to have a dominant performance. The last wide receiver 1 that I have in week 12 is Michael Pittman Jr. He gets the Bucs at home. The caution was warranted last week as no one on the Colts did anything besides watch JT go absolutely ham. Tampa Bay is top 5 in yards per pass attempt. However, they are bottom 5 in passing touchdowns allowed. Pittman may not ball out, but he is going to be solid. Keenan Allen is next. He is my lucky number 13, going on the road to face the Broncos. After being a bye for me 4 weeks ago, Keenan Allen has absolutely caught fire. He has wide receiver finishes of 15, 7, 12, and 17. And in those 4 games, he has 48 targets, racking up 391 yards and a touchdown. Slowly but surely ascending up the rankings is DJ Moore. He gets Miami on the road and he's in at 14th. The Dolphins are allowing the 2nd most points per game to pass catchers on the season, but they've tightened up over their last 3, allowing bottom 5 yards per attempt numbers. Moore got back on track last week, and I think he's going to continue that trajectory here. At 15, it is Mike Williams. He goes on the road to Denver to face the Broncos. Williams finally got back into the top 10 for the first time since week 5, rewarding owners who held out of hopes of a resurgence. He gets a decent matchup here, and I believe that that kind of streak continues. Moving on to 16 and staying at home against Carolina, it is Jalen Waddle. Carolina has been stingy all year, but they looked beatable last week. Waddle has the skill set to cause issues for this secondary and has 2 finishes here or higher in his last 3. At 17 and staying at home against the Raiders on Thanksgiving, it is Michael Gallup. Now I'm assuming that both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper missed Thursday's game, so that makes Gallup the wide receiver 1 on the team by default. He should see plenty of targets here, so he offers a solid floor, and I like his upside as well in a tough matchup against Las Vegas. Adam Thielen travels to San Francisco. He is my 18th ranked player. Thielen continues to find the end zone and has scored in 4 out of his past 5 games. But this is a tough matchup, as the Niners rank top 10 in passing touchdowns allowed, yards per attempt, and points allowed to wide receivers. Potentially regaining owners' confidence. At 19, I have Tyler Lockett. He travels to Washington. Now, it appears that there absolutely is a middle ground for Lockett, who finished between wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 39 for the first time all season. He's now looking for his first solid back-to-back performances since weeks 1 and 2, and Washington is the best opportunity that you can get to do that. Elijah Moore is the last player in my top 20, and he gets the Houston Texans on the road. The breakout is finally here, as Moore has elevated to another level. In 2 out of his past 3, he has finished in the top 3 and has 4 touchdowns and 269 yards in that span. With Michael Carter out a few weeks, they're going to lean on him even more. Now, I was all over this next guy, and he bombed for us last week, so I do apologize. At 21, I have Brandon Cooks. He faces the Jets at home. And what a ridiculous game script for Houston last week. All they basically had to do was let Tyrod Taylor run it in himself, and it killed Cooks. Now, I am not losing the faith, and I think he responds in a plus matchup against the Jets. Tumbling down my rankings and barely finding himself in wide receiver 2 range is A.J. Brown. He travels on the road to face the Patriots in Foxborough. Now, I have concerns with the chest/rib injury that he sustained, in addition to this offense's poor play over the last couple weeks and the matchup with J.C. Jackson. Brown probably can't be benched, but he carries massive risk. On to 23 and traveling on the road to face the Lions, it's Darnell Mooney. I am aggressively ranking Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver 2 after back-to-back top 5 performances. In those games, he has 162 yards with 3 touchdowns, and the Lions present a great opportunity to keep his impressive streak going. My last wide receiver 2 is Brandon Ayuk. He gets the Vikings at home. Now with 2 wide receiver 1 finishes in his last 3 weeks and an excellent matchup here against Minnesota, Ayuk has a chance to solidify himself as an awesome weekly option with a strong performance. The last player in my top 25 is Rashad Bateman. He stays at home to face Cleveland. The entire Ravens offense suffered last week with Brett Hundley at the helm, but Bateman could rebound in a huge way here with Marquise Brown potentially missing. Check back in on Friday. He will jump if Brown is trending down by then. Next up, at 26, I have Devonta Smith. He goes on the road to face the Giants. Smith was decent last week in a tough matchup and could see another one here against James Bradberry. His target share has been solid and consistent, and he has 243 yards in his last 3. Taking a dive all the way to number 27, we finally find T. Higgins. He gets Pittsburgh at home. Eventually, I just have to rank on the production, and Higgins hasn't scored since week 2 and is coming off his worst performance of the season where he saw just 3 targets against Vegas. In that same game, I have Chase Claypool next at 28. Claypool was able to get back on track with his best output since week 5, seeing 11 opportunities against the Chargers. He looked like he was over his toe injury, and he will be needed here again. As I get to 29, we find Emmanuel Sanders traveling to New Orleans to face the Saints. Sanders should find space against that Saints secondary with Stephon Diggs tied up, and I think he capitalizes on the opportunity. With just 7 targets in his last 2, Josh Allen focuses on getting him more involved. The last ranked player that I have for you guys in week 12 is Jerry Jeudy. He stays at home to face the Chargers. Jeudy continues to cement himself as the alpha in Detroit's passing game. He has 17 targets over his last 2, but he does face this LA team that is allowing just 28 points per game to wideouts, which is second fewest in the league. Into my notable omissions, and it starts with his teammate Courtland Sutton. Fresh off of a 4-year, $60 million deal, I expect Sutton to get more involved, but not this week. He has just 14 targets in his last 4 games. Hunter Renfrow is the next guy that I am passing on. He faces Dallas on the road. And after seeing a minimum of 8 targets over his last 3 games, Renfrow saw just 4 last week. The Las Vegas offense just isn't clicking right now. The last player that I am passing on is Corey Davis. He travels to Houston, and it just sure looks like Elijah Moore is emerging as the guy in New York, and I am certainly not starting a Jets wide receiver 2. And that will do it in week number 12 for my wide receiver rankings. Thank you guys so much for joining me for it, and happy Thanksgiving to you. If you have any questions about starts or sits, please drop them down below. I'll be sure and check before the games tomorrow. If you are new to the channel, if you are enjoying the content, or if you haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all of the support on my journey to my first 100 subscribers. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham O. Pats, and we'll see you next time.